All right. Hello, everyone. I think some folks are still logging in, but we can get started. Can you all hear me? Yes. Thanks, Laurel. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Body. I'm the Membership and Events Manager here at the Asheville Art Museum. I hope you're all staying warm today, and I want to thank you for being here for our member program. I am very excited to welcome Akira Satake for today's program. When I first moved to Asheville, Akira's gallery was actually one of the first places I visited in the River Arts District. So it's a real thrill to have you here. His work is absolutely incredible if you're not familiar with it, though I'm sure many of you are. And we're actually lucky to have one of Akira's works on display right now at the museum in our current exhibition, Fantastical Forms, which you may have already heard about if you attended our member program 2 weeks ago, or if you've been to the museum this month. So before I turn this over to Akira, I just want to go over some housekeeping for all our attendees. First, please note that all microphones are muted by default. We are recording today's program, so if you prefer not to be recorded, please make sure that your video remains off. Both the microphone and video camera symbols at the bottom left of your screen will have red lines through them to indicate that they're off. And we will share this recording either in today's member or today's eBlast or next week's eBlast, depending on how fast we can download it. And it will also be posted on our YouTube channel. And if you would like to ask a question or make a comment during the program, please feel free to do so. You can use the chat box, which you'll find at the bottom of your screen. And I encourage you to enter your questions as we go, and I'll read them to Akira as they come in. I will also send out an evaluation to all attendees after the program concludes. The information you provide through these evaluations is important to us when we're applying for grants or reporting on programs, so please do take a few minutes to fill that out. I promise it's not long. And finally, we have lots of ways you can support the museum right now. First, I hope you've all registered on BidSquare to bid on some of the amazing works of art in our silent auction and buy it now. If you haven't, you still have the opportunity to do so and find something special. Those are open through Friday, November 20th. And all funds raised from these auctions will support the museum, the work we do, and the community we serve. Second, we also have through the end of the year our Asheville Art Museum COVID-19 Relief Fund and Matching Challenge. All annual fund donations and membership upgrades will be matched dollar for dollar up to $75,000 by a longtime foundation supporter. So every dollar has double the impact, and I hope we can count on you all to help us reach that goal. And so now I'll turn this over to Akira. Thanks so much for leading today's program.
Hello.
Yeah, it's all you, Akira.
Can you make a spotlight my face? Make it, or should I do it? It's Kristen, your microphone's off.
Yeah, I realize that now. I spotlighted you, so it should be on, and let me stop sharing my screen.
Oh, now I'm getting here. Good. All right. My head is cut off. Okay. All right. Hi, how are you, everybody? Great. You can hear. Good. Wonderful. And okay, participants, 23 people right now. Okay, wonderful. I'm going to talk about me, I guess. That's the point of this program. I would share my slide as soon as I stop showing my face. Kristen, should I start to do that now or wait for a few more people? And
no, you're welcome to share it now. If anyone misses anything, they can catch it in the recording.
Okay, wonderful. I will do that. Okay, so looking at like my earliest ball, I was, or I made this set about 18 years ago when I started to do a pottery. And how I ended up doing a pottery I would like to talk about a little bit. I was in Japan and not really good high school student. The typical artist, I think I'm kind of bored with academic part of school. And I was playing music every day. Pretty much like 3-4 days I had a gig making some pretty good money for high school students playing at live venue. No wonder my academic is terrible. So I decided to go to art school, went to the photograph school, and 2 years studying photography. Then after that, I worked for Japanese photograph studio doing commercial photos, which is a lot of fashion and a lot of taking a picture of still life kind of stuff. Then I decided to move to America. I brought my banjo. Oh, by the way, I'm a banjo player too. And I brought my banjo and camera and a duffel bag full of some clothes. I think $2,000 in my wallet. And then I got in California. Then, as soon as I got there, I had a small, tiny connection. I called the guy up, American guy who owned instrument company, musical instrument company. And he said, "What do you do?" "I'm a banjo player and I'm a photographer." "Okay, you got the job." I got immediately, like 3 days after I got to this country, I got the job. I worked for him 2 years and then I quit and moved to New York. So New York, I became following my music part of my life and playing music. I'll talk about that kind of stuff later. Then I got so stressed from being a musician, music recording company director, music producer, and I also had own record company in New York City. I was in Ed Sullivan Theater, 8th floor and the 9th floor. And David Letterman was on the 10th floor. It's crazy life of high stressed and I couldn't sleep anymore. I was sitting on my bed 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm going nuts. I cannot sleep. This every day I'm having trouble sleeping. And I told my wife, what should I do? I'm gonna kill myself if I'm gonna continue doing this. And I decided do something to escape from my stress. Maybe yoga, maybe meditation, maybe Buddhism. No, I don't know. How about the pottery? So I went to Greenwich House Pottery, a little school in the West Village in New York. And first day, I decided to, when I touched the clay first day, and I decided, this is it. I'm going to do this for my life. And so instead of trying to sleep every night, couldn't sleep and struggling, instead of that, I brought home some clay in my home office. I start to pinch my pots till 3-4 o'clock in the morning. Then I'm so tired. 3 o'clock in the morning, I go to bed and I could sleep. because of something, expressing myself to the clay. So now that's enough about my history, how I became potter. So this is like a first month I start learn how to throw pots on the wheel. And this is what I did. So then that first year, I start to make a bunch of these kind of dishes or platter. Then put together, I wasn't going to put all those things. I just made the different sizes and I'm stacking on it. It looks good. I took a photo. I sent to a Lincoln Center craft show and I got in. And I pretty much sold out. That was only about 1 year after touched clay. And so I told my wife that I might be able to make a living as potter. And immediately I decided to rent studio in Brooklyn. It's 10 feet by 10 feet. I was paying $500. That's a New York price or even Brooklyn price. And that's crazy. And 2 years doing, still doing music production and running record company. But any extra spare time, I was making the pots. And I told my wife, I want to move out New York City so I can have nice studio, big studio, and a kiln, maybe wood firing kiln. And somebody told me Asheville is a good place for potter. So okay, and I checked out all those things online. Sure, it is. Asheville sounded so nice. So yeah. So this kind of things I was making. And in the beginning, I wanted to master how to make even thin, clean pots to understand what is a wheel. And then I decide to, testing many glaze. And none of the glaze really made me happy. So this is an example of a very traditional Korean puncheon sake style, which is dark clay and poured white syrup, then clear glaze on it. Usually this technique is applying white syrup on greenware, still wet. Clay is still wet. In that way, it slip attach on the clay very well. Very simple technique, and this is in Korea. Probably 1,000 years ago, they found the Chinese white porcelain ware, and they were so impressed by it. They wanted to make something white, but in the village in Korea, they didn't have enough of white porcelain and very expensive. So they decided to make some kind of their own version, brown clay, white syrup. So something they wanted to kind of copy the traditional Chinese porcelain ware, but they can come up much warmer, interesting own technique. So this is puncheon sake, and then Japanese copied that style. We call kohiki. So I use that term kohiki, and I made many of the bowls like this. But I didn't know I supposed to apply white syrup in outside, nice day, sunny, windy time. Otherwise, what happened is I made a bunch of those, and came back next day, and all those things collapsed on the table. And I was really upset, unhappy. I throw that on floor. And some of those things I brushed. Okay, next photo, I'm going. And this is a small, tiny, like a leaf side piece. But this is a product from my anger. So the line of brush mark of a white strip, something like that. And stretched it because of throwing on the floor. I had this technique. Friend of mine, Peter Lane, showed me white strip things. Very wonderful artist, and combining with brush mark stretching. This is a technique I came up, and that mistake really helped to go into more of this style of work. So, and then how can I make those stretched slab into container? So made a tube, pinch the bottom, and fill up inside, those holes around those feet. And this developed many kind of work. And limitation working with a slab, and I cannot really touch from on the surface, made some unique style of shape. Limitation is such a wonderful thing for artists. And a picture. These are my very early, I think, a second year of my pottery life. I started making these. Quite a long time ago, Anthropology, big company, asked me to make a few hundred of these pictures for wholesale. I said, all right, why not? And yeah, so this is my studio back then, and I hated it. Taking an order is such a big mistake for artists. It's just to become a job and become a factory. So I will never do that again. This is Teapot. Another teapot. And these teapot, the body of teapot is made with one small rectangular piece of slab, and feet and spout and everything made with one piece. And if you would like to know how I do that, you can go to my website and then click on the video. And there is a PBS series called Craftsman's Legacy. And I'm making this style of teapot with host of the show. And he's like a motorbike kind of looking person. But he's also a metal craftsman, and I'm torturing him making this first time.
Akira, I just shared the link in the chat box so everyone can click on that
when
they have a chance.
Thanks, Kristen. And this is a large piece. This is almost, you can use as a chair size. Of course, it's uncomfortable. You can use it as hold water, so you can use as a base. This is a variation. And this is a kind of interesting piece. When I was making this box, you can see the lid, that come off. But anyway, when I was making this, on the table, I had a very thin wire, cutting wire. Then I put those slab upside down. So I made this line on the top of lid. So I said, shoot, I don't have any more slab to finish this box. So, what can I do? Doesn't look good. Wait a minute. If I make another line on the side to do that, 1, 2, 3, then become design. It's look almost have a like an optical illusion kind of, result. So this is my music part of my life really helps. In the jazz music, jazz improvisation, when you play wrong note, just repeat 2 more times, then it became right notes. So nothing of your experience is wasted. We will talk about relationship with music and pottery, and also photography or other kind of fun, interesting job I've done, or its effect on my work. By the way, this is a wall piece. I'm gonna go.
Akira, sorry to interrupt. Before you move on, we have a question that came in. They're from Tom asking if you do your own caning.
Oh yeah, I do. You mean handle, teapot handle?
I assume so. They just asked about caning.
Caning, I think that's caning. Okay, I buy the reeds from a company on the internet, and then I soak it wet. Then I make myself. And now, luckily, my assistant does that. Sinala is my assistant. Now she's good at it, much better than I am these days. Well, actually, that was wall piece. It's kind of large, and similar technique, cutting to those curves and then put back together. These are coffee mugs, tea cups, and recently I started to make black, the same technique. But this black is not coming from pigments or stain or anything. This is coming from how I fire. I fire technique called tanka, and firing with organic material to smoke it to make black. Pretty often, black pottery are not food safe, but these are very much food safe. This is the same technique, but wood fired. And I will show you my kiln later. Firing with a train kiln. That's my style of my wood firing kiln. 50 hours, 5 cords of wood. And you never know how those comes out. And these are all wood-fired kohiki technique. And explain a little bit more about the kohiki technique. I developed this technique. I told you about mistake, also my friends' ideas and all those things. First, make a slab of brown clay and applying white porcelain slip. Consistency of tahini or melted ice cream. Then apply with a large brush. Then you don't see that much of those lines. But next day or so, when surface is not sticky anymore, but the clay is still wet, whack it on the table. Go boom, boom. Then little by little, those hint of line of brush hair stretch, open, crackle, and distort. The distortion is really important for me. That bring out nature energy. So all my work, we're gonna go move on. Oh, yeah, no, this is a nice photo. I like this photo. Of course, I had a neck back then. Okay. So all those, go back there. All my technique is coming from idea of collaboration of clay and fire and myself, and pretty much equal amount of us there. Okay, and my kohiki style, what I showed you, that is probably more like landscape, earthquake, whatever. Think about nature. Nature is always force of nature from distance. They don't grab the pen, then carve it, or knife to carve it. They are rain, wind, earthquake. All those things are their nature force from distance. So that's why nature is part of it. That's why the nature is so organic. It's strange. Nature is organic. It's kind of a strange thing to say. Of course it is. But I'm trying to be one of those. And I would like to be, wind or rain or landslide, whatever. Okay, these are different technique. I put the mortar onto the pot I throw on the wheel and adding very soft. This is soft, but not like a slip. It's more like a mortar, which means more like, miso. Okay, probably some of you doesn't never use the miso. Okay, much harder, and let's say kind of a soft clay, so I can apply on outside of pots, and then you can see those lines and three-dimensional surface. And these are fired. I call this also kind of my technique I developed from influence of a 450 years old technique called hikidashi. And they pull out from kiln, then rapidly cool down. So get very interesting surface. White glaze on it, and body of clay where no glaze become black. These are tea ceremony bowls, and same kind of stuff, the tea ceremony bowls. And by the way, if anybody has question, please type on the chat line to a Kristen, and she can ask me. And the foot of these tea ceremony bowls or any other tea bowls are very important. If foot doesn't match and foot doesn't have energy and organicness matching with body, it's not good. When you have a stone-washed jeans, then you got to have nice sneaker. Don't wear, pink high heel, right? Well, maybe some people likes that, but anyway. So then now we're moving on to wood firing.
Akira, I did have a question that just came in from Laurel asking if your pieces are meant to be functional or strictly art.
So far, everything I showed you are all functional. And later on, sculptural piece coming. And I do both. But when it's functional, looks like a functional, it's very functional. And pretty much 90% of those dishwasher microwave safe. Except the black one, I kind of hesitate to put in dishwasher. And some of those are too expensive to put in a dishwasher, just scary. So this green things on the top, we call it dragonfly eye ball and tombonome. This is fired sideways and then cup, let's say this is a cup, and then fired this way. And the wadding, which is a crumbly clay between shelf and the pots. And so won't stick in pot, doesn't stick to shelf. It will come off later. And during 50 hours of firing, ash fell down on it. Then melt, more ash, melt, then deposit in the lowest part. And that is a green things on the top of a piece. All these color, these are not glazed. All these color are coming from ash. We call it natural ash glaze. And these are exactly same clay, exactly same kiln, probably exact same firing, but it depends on where in the kiln comes out completely different. Oh, by the way, usually I don't name my functional pottery, but I named this moon and cloud. I saw it immediately after I named it. I think the name is sometimes important there for selling. These Shino, Japanese Shino glaze, white glaze. This is 100% feldspar, powdered.
Akira, yes? One thing that might be helpful for some folks is if you could kind of give a general size of what these are.
This is a very small. This is a sake cup. So it's like, 2 inches high. This is a little bigger, maybe 3 inches. This is called yunomi. So sake cup, like a 2-inch or smaller, that we call guinomi, coming from sound, gui. Maybe it doesn't make sense to American, but for Japanese, we have a onomatopoeia, sounds of drinking, gui, guinomi. Okay, so this is a yunomi, everyday tea cup. And oh yeah, this is a good example of dragonfly eyeball, tombonome. Yeah, many of these. When this doesn't come out so often, when I see coming out from kiln, I jump, dance. And these are size of like 3.5 or 4 inches high. I named this Stormy Sea. Okay, this is a sake cup. So sake craft and then sake cup, guinomi. And this sake craft is probably like 5-inch high, right? Or 4.5-inch high. Called tokkuri. And so now I'm showing some of greenware. This is just made, then fired later. After 50 hours, sometime when I show these before and after photo, and some people say, oh, I like the before better. Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you telling me that, but you can't really use it. Also, it's sometimes easier to photograph greenware because you can focus on the shape. So this is after, before. I think after is very nice too, but the before is nice. This is the tea ceremony bowl you hold with 2 hands. So it's kind of a big, So it's like a 4-5 inches wide, much bigger, using for tea ceremony. I'll go this quick, and then after this group of slides is over, and if I have enough time, I want to show little picture, short slides of tea ceremony and ikebana, which is a flower arrangement. So I'm going too quick, but I'm sorry, I want to.
Take your time, Akira. We actually had a question come in from Laurel asking, where do you get your main inspiration for the design and color of your pieces?
Probably nature, and also tradition of Momoyama period in Japan, and also like a wall of old, only like a 60 years old building in tobacco barn. And anything has time affected on the surface. That usually the color I inspired by. And working in the wood firing kiln, I really don't have a control. They make choice most of the time. And I don't use that much glaze. When I use glaze, very simple. I only use 3-4 glaze, and black or white and green. But each time firing, they just change it to something more interesting most of the time, or sometimes really ugly, which is I'm not showing to any of you. And these are white Shino glaze again. And before, this is no glaze, just all ash melted. This is a Nuka glaze. This is rice husk ash and clay mixed together, and they become a glaze. Okay, some of the teapot. So now you can see, those round reed. I dye those reed in tea, black tea. I use the cheapest Lipton tea bag, many of 100 of those in the pot, and to make this color. Okay, this is before and after. These are all no glaze outside, only inside has a glaze. This one is interesting. I don't make that often. If people call that functional, yes, kind of functional. It's not the greatest. So how I make this? I make cylinder on the wheel, and the score outside, make lines, then close completely. So make airtight, like a balloon shape. Then cut off the bottom out from the head of the wheel and put upside down and drop on the floor. So become this football shape. It's hard to describe without doing.
Akira,
Okay.
we have a question from Tom. He wants to know if you use salt in your firing.
I don't use salt. I use only wood as a source of heat. And the salt, can come out very interesting. Many, wonderful potter use salt or soda, but I don't. Oh, that was black. This is the Tanka series. No glaze and then charcoal fired, and or organic saga fired. And the one in the right-hand side bottom that has clear white strip and clear glaze, but still fired in saga. These are wood-fired dark clay This dark clay is digged out in North Carolina near Seagrove area. And a friend of mine, Takuro, is a manager of a clay company in Seagrove area, Star Works, and makes digged these clay for me. Very difficult work because of a lot of iron in the clay, so that's why these are dark. But the more iron included in the clay, more difficult because break so much. Okay, these are boxes. Interesting thing about these, I just remember this color, and it's exactly same clay, no glaze, same firing, almost next to each other, but this much different color. This is a different clay. This is interesting. Temperature, usually I want to keep like 2300 Fahrenheit, but probably this got so much higher. So I had a teacup on top of a box, and in between I had a wadding, this crumbly clay with seashell. Everything melted down and fused together. I did a Mint Museum show. Then somebody came. I want to get this. I'm collecting teacup in a box. So today only purchasing one. So is that a good thing for me or not? I don't know, but I sold to him. This is a box before big chunk of clay, and cut it with wire and a knife, then tear it off. You have to make clay to be able to make some kind of a personality which is short like this. There are the many ways you can do, introducing sand or introducing air. And inside has to be clean, I think. After fired, I'm really interested in clean line combined with very organic surface that makes interesting balance and rhythm to it. This is a many chunk, like a marshmallow size, small clay, put everything together, then cut it with wire. This, of course, won't hold the water. If you say this is functional, well, not really. But you have to have a tube inside to hold the water. Maybe you can just have a little plastic container.
Akira, we have a question from Ayla. She's asking, what qualities are usually given by using glaze, and are these qualities lost when you fire without it?
Quality. I'm not really understanding. Would you explain me a little more?
So I think she wants to know the difference between if something was used with glaze in the technique you use to fire your pots, and if that's like what that would result in compared to what your pots do.
Yeah, well, good question. Well, I'm not really happy with many of glaze, which is shiny, or it's, after all, it's kind of a man-made. And without glaze, firing in wood, we call natural ash glaze. Even we call glaze, but it's just the ash fell down on the pots and it become, so it's more serendipity there. I just letting fire, ash and the clay to do their job. That's the best part of a potter for me, being a potter, because it's playing like other musician. They do something and I react to them. Clay do that something to me, and or ash finish up what I done. It's a collaboration. And the glaze is, of course, there is more, a lot of serendipity in there too, especially fired in wood firing kiln. But this is more pure enjoyment of what I don't know what's going to happen. And serendipity is this fun part of it. You know, I was talking to somebody before. Potter is one of the few artists would say to point out own piece. Look at that pot. Isn't it beautiful? To talking about your own pot. And that kind of egoistic sounds like if painter said to his paint, look at my paint, isn't it so beautiful? It's kind of strange, right? But Potter, for us, it's not really just us. It's like detached with ourselves. Because of after I made and put in the kiln, and the kiln does the work. I'm talking about how beautiful this pot is because of what ash heat flame kiln did for me. So it's interesting. And after I fire, I cannot retouch it. You know, painter, you can work on the same painting for the rest of your life. But the potter, nothing you can do. Maybe refiring, that's about it you can do. Okay, this is before and after. It's not exactly the same piece, but all these clay teared it off, and I mix very short clay and very plastic clay and mix gently. So when I tear it off, you know, there's some of the parts stick out, some of the part break off. I explain, this is like eating s'more. When you make s'more, you know, chocolate is melting and marshmallow is melting a little different, but the biscuit, the part break off. So it's different textures comes out. So making the clay to what you like is part of our life too. Okay, this is gonna go quick because most of the people have no interest of how to build a kiln. But this is my wood firing kiln. First foundation, and my friend was helping. And little by little, it took about 1 month to make. My daughter, when she was very little, 5 years old, and she was very nice. And it's still nice. And very high ceiling. I'm not ceiling, I mean a chimney. It's probably close to 20 feet. And this is the lid of a kiln. Lid of a kiln? Probably you never seen that. Filled up with a fiber, ceramic fiber, completely. Then you see it on top of that kiln, inside, between chimney and the firebox. That is a jack on the 4 sides, and you can lift and then slide. And then I can go inside, load the kiln. Then after that, it's just a slide back to close. This is a very modern design. John Neely from Utah State University, he's a genius scientist and potter, made this design. There's a firebox. And this is a fast firing, very clean. You can see the bricks is brand new. And you see some of those, you know, like a half round or round thin slab on top of a piece that makes, you know, variation of a color and how much ash fell down onto it makes more interesting surface. This is from the top, and then slide down those lid. After fired. Okay, these are very unusual. It's a green glaze, Oribe. It's old glaze. Has a little copper in it. And this is a sculpture. This is the first sculpture, maybe. Other one had holes, like a vase, but that's dysfunctional vase. But this is purely sculpture, large. It's about 24, little bigger than 24 inches long. This is also gray, Oribe glaze. And this is a technique I mentioned before, adding the mortar outside of the pots. And yeah, this is one of the most beautiful dragonfly eye. It looks like a comet. And this doesn't happen that often. This is a large piece. This is a container. In tea ceremony, we use as a water jar. But in America, we use for cookie. This is a water jar. It's called mizusashi. Vase made from slab, very thick slab, cut it with wire and put together with 5 pieces of those. So this is an example that on the kiln, I had a round slab and like a half circle slab. So you see lighter color orange part, it has those covered. So it gives interesting variation of the surface and the color. Before, this is a large, I call it suiban. It's for ikebana arrangement, Japanese flower arrangement. This is a container for ikebana. And after, this is also ikebana vase. This is a wall vase, plates. Pretty often, best part of a pot is under the plates like this. And front part where you can see while using is much more boring. Mint Museum bought this piece, Mint Museum downtown. So I requested, please put in acrylic display case and it's standing. So you can see the back and front. This is a landscape plate. It's very hard to use. You can put the cheese or sushi. This is a large piece, but yeah, it's not easy. Some people ask me, what do you think about the function about my pottery? And I say sometimes, well, I like to do some challenge to the chef and let them do their job, giving some, okay, that is kind of playing the music too, improvisation. You play phrasing and then the other musician has to answer to it. It's giving a little challenge. That's fun.
Akira, we've had 2 questions come in. One is from Constance, and she's asking if there's some kind of air system which pulls the heat, ash, and smoke from the firebox through the kiln and to the chimney to give your pieces that wood-fired look.
No, that's only natural air, which is a chimney is so tall. And heat combining tall chimney, it sucks the air out. So what I can control, much ash, how much temperature rising or calm down, all those things is how I can pull out the bricks from chimney. That's the main things I can control air movement. And when I don't want to move the air too much in the kiln, I make a hole on the kiln, chimney. So you understand what I'm talking about. You are drinking juice with straw. When straw has a hole on the side, it's so hard to drink. So chimney take out the brick and the hole, air doesn't move. And if you want air to move, close all those holes on the chimney. So that's main, thing we can do control. Of course, how much wood, what kind of wood, that's also always a question. I use mostly pine and some hardwood like oak and pine. If we want to bring the temperature up, I use a lot of pine, mostly pine. So because of pine's softwood, it doesn't create a charcoal bed. But if temperature is going up too quick, I use hardwood like oak. So bring up the charcoal bed higher. So inside of firebox get smaller. So temperature calm down. And very primitive.
Thank you for that. That was a great explanation, Akira. I'm sure there's some physics and chemistry involved, but that made it very understandable. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the potter, we don't need to be very modern. One of the few genre of art, we don't need to rely on a computer technique, but just need a little bit of understanding of science.
And I know you still have some stuff to get through, but we do have one other question from Elaine asking if you still play the banjo.
Of course, I do the concert, and this year is very difficult, as you know why. But I just did a concert, virtual concert at the White Horse Black Mountain, and they had a professional video crew came, 5 cameras and 5 microphones and all the things, very professional quality. And unfortunately, that was 8 p.m. a few days ago, already past the night of Biden's speech, exactly same time. So not many people watched our concert. But good news is we're gonna rebroadcast on the 27th of November, 8 p.m. And I'm going to post where to go, and I'll send email again to everybody who is subscribing my mailing list. And if you are not subscribing my mailing list, please go to my website and subscribe. So then you will hear about this concert schedule, just click and you can watch. And December 4th, I have an online sale, like 500 more new parts will be available on my online store. And that information, okay, that's enough of a commercial. Okay, this dark clay, now this is a before and after. I think I like before photo better, but again, it's not functional. And when you see it in person, after fired piece has real interesting colors and textures. And the twisted vase, this is what one of this series is in Asheville Art Museum collection now. Thank you for purchasing. This is similar to something like this. Oh, and repeated, sorry. And this is no function. But these you can use as a base. And I'm going to show you soon. I'm going to do I have a short slide of ikebana with flower in, without flower. Okay, these I call millefeuille style. I sliced clay very thin and put it back together and cut and tear it off. And then millefeuille is, my wife is a professional pastry chef. So she does very similar things, the puff pastry and 1,000 layers of pancake. Almost done, but I have to talk about this piece. This piece is one large piece of sculptural vase, and I bisque fired in electric kiln, then exploded to the 2-piece because it probably wasn't dry enough. So I was like very disappointed for 3 seconds. Then I said, wait a minute, this is very nice to brought to the 2-piece. I'm gonna fire small part in wood firing kiln and then black part in charcoal sagar kiln, and completely different color and put back together. So for us, potter, every mistake we make is asset. And if you are perfect, you don't make any mistake. I don't know anybody who doesn't make any mistake. But when we make mistake, is a chance for us. That's my philosophy of my life too. It's when this year is so difficult for everybody. And in March, I was freaking out. But this is, I said, okay, this is pinch is a chance. So I started to do a lot of online business and giving a virtual workshop. And I actually did a virtual workshop with a very well-known Japanese potter in Japan and me in Asheville. And we did a live workshop together and something like that. We never thought about doing it before pandemic. So, I think a whole life is like that. So this is a small disaster compared to pandemic, but I had an interesting result. So this is my gallery, and my gallery is in River Arts District, Riverview Station. And we are open 6 days a week except Sunday. So please stop by to see my work in person. And this is me playing a banjo with my partner. Actually, not, this is my partner. And we just that concert. I'm playing with him close. Wow, more than 10 years. And Duncan Wickle is a super incredible musician. He lives in New York, but when we do a concert, he comes here. Okay, so now I like to do another one. Sorry, how can I go back to, okay, stop share this and then okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to short series of. Can you see? I guess
No,
not.
you haven't shared it yet.
Ah, okay. I know why, because I didn't share it yet. And that's obvious. Okay, let's share. Now you see?
Yes, now we see.
Okay, let's see in full. Okay, so this is the tea ceremony bowl, and you see the whisk behind, bamboo whisk. And this is the matcha green tea. And then you see the bamboo spoon, and you put a few of those things on a bowl, and the hot water added, and then mix with this whisk. And the tea ceremony became very popular about 450 years ago, and a trend setter, tea ceremony master. His name is Senno Rikyu, and he really introduced the aesthetic of wabi-sabi and finding beauty in imperfection and that kind of. And so I'm very influenced by that philosophy. And the mix, well, get a little foamy. Oh, well, anyway, those are tea ceremony. So now you understand. And the tea ceremony is, if you are serious ceremony, it takes 6 hours or so. But short one, you can do very, very quick one. Of course, this is idea of this is a meditation and communicate with host or guest. And 450 years ago, there was the medieval time in Japan, shogun and samurai. Shogun say, okay, the samurai, you go to battlefield tomorrow with the 200 soldiers. Means you might die tomorrow. So they communicating each other. Instead of they talk, they go to small tea house, then share using the same bowl to drink the green tea without saying anything. And meditative and escape from fear of death and understanding situation, and that kind of a meditative function of tea ceremony became very popular. So, okay, yeah, I'm playing the shamisen, that's a Japanese banjo. Okay, now going to main part of this slides. Only, like a 12 a picture of those, but this one I did. I study Ikenobo School of Ikebana. And my teacher, I have two teachers. One is Sayo Harris. She works for me, but also she's a wonderful teacher. And other one is who is living in Hendersonville, Emiko Suzuki, and she's really experienced teacher, incredible. Okay, and something like this, what you can do with a flower. So this I did with echoing curve of vase with branches and having main actress or actor in flower arrangement, and then some other by player and behind, that kind of idea. That's Ikebana is line, dot, circle, surface. That's another three important part of Ikebana. I think I did this one too. This is a Sayo did. This is just a cherry, no, maybe apple, apple blossom. I guess I did this. And Ikebana, idea of Ikebana is negative space is most important. And for me, my pottery is a negative space is important. Less I do is more powerful for me. And I always talk about this story of Miles Davis, jazz trumpet player. And he was on the stage with his band, and the saxophone player took beautiful, beautiful solo. And usually Miles Davis never compliment anybody, but he really liked what he did, this saxophone player did. So walked down to him after solo, and he said, "Hey man, I really dig all those notes you didn't play." So that is my idea of music. Even I'm a banjo player, I try to play necessary notes, not unnecessary notes. And the pottery, I like to do same thing. And I was talking to some well-known potter, American potter, and he said when somebody commission you the pots, he makes 3 of those. And then first one is very simple. Second one, a little bit more ornament. Third one, it may get going a little bit more nuts. And I said, wow, that's opposite of I do. I make first one might have some more ornament. Then the second one, I'll probably take unnecessary thing. And the third one goes simplest, but more appeal to me. So everybody is different. That's my style. Also, this is my arrangement. And this is my desktop Ikebana base. What you can do with this? Something like that. This is Sayo did it. This is also Sayo did. It's called nageire style, which is just throwing the pot, flower in the pots, but understanding technique of flower arrangement, Ikebana style. And it's like a karate, martial arts. You study kata, which is your hundreds of, it has those, you study phrase, and then after you master those, you can improvise. It's pretty much all those art in the music is the same thing. You just practice to learn in the foundational shape. Suiban, this is a large oval, and this is, you see the kenzan. Usually we hide the kenzan, but I thought it's a good idea to show this frog, which is a needle things on the left-hand side of this oval piece that's called kenzan. This is a little more hidden. This is also my arrangement. This is my another arrangement. Siban is fun to do. I treat that it's like a pond and flower coming out. It's all G's mind. Something like that. I think a Metropolitan Museum was displaying a similar piece of this 2 years ago. This is a hard one. I didn't know how to do a Ikebana arrangement. And Emiko, she came and then she did like a 12 of incredible thing in 40 minutes. Now you're gonna see that some of those. like that. You got to have a ball to do this, but understanding space, negative space. This is one of mine. I'm sorry, but okay. Emiko, I showed this to Emiko, and she said, "Okay." That she did. It's wild, isn't it? That's great. That's another Emiko's piece. That's Emiko's. It's a crazy piece like this. This is a sculpture, but also function for base too. It's really interesting what she does to echoing shape, then break that shape with little small flower and this poppy pod. And the next one is wild. It's very humorous. Like this. It looks like some kind of animal or a rabbit or whatever. This is the one I did. It's collaborating with the shadow too. This is the Emiko's arrangement. This is another one of the Emiko's arrangement. Like that. It's a very difficult piece. This is like when I was talking about try to challenge the chef. This is trying to challenge the Ikebana artist. And the more fun,
Well, Akira, we're a little over time, but
okay, that's it. Actually, perfect.
This has been wonderful. The Ikebana was a really nice surprise. I was not expecting that, but thank you so much for leading today's member program. I feel like one, I loved hearing about your work, but hearing about the philosophy that goes into it all as well is like a therapy session. This is wonderful. So thank you so much. And I also want to thank all of our members for being here today. As a reminder, we are open with lots of safety protocols in place. So if you haven't visited us yet, please do so soon. And if you're not able to, that's okay. We will continue to do these virtual programs through our Museum from Home initiative. And I'll send out the program evaluation in a bit. Our next member program will be on December 9th. And I know that next week is Thanksgiving. So I hope everyone has a happy, healthy, and most importantly, safe holiday. So thank you all again. Thank you, Akira. This was wonderful.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. And thank you so much, Kristen.
Thank you. Stay well, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.